Hey gang, Coach Clint here, founder of Creed.
And I am Coach Austin. I'm the head coach over at Creed Athens.
All right, so we're gonna chat a little bit about toning up today
And sculpting.
yeah.
What words are those?
Toning and sculpting and lengthening and lifting the seat and those kind of words. So let's start with just a little bit of a history of those kind of words.
So I don't know when this started, probably 20 or 30 years ago. Maybe there was like a combining of the minds in the fitness industry, and they were like, we have no problem getting men to sign up for our gyms, but we're struggling to get women to sign up. How can we spin the marketing terms to where women who are intimidated about lifting weights still feel like they're gonna come in and get the results they want? So then voila, these marketing terms, toning, sculpting, lengthening, those came out of nowhere, and like that, it worked great because women no longer associated lifting weights with, oh, I'm gonna get bulky or I'm gonna look like a bodybuilder. And instead, they kind of transitioned into, I'm gonna lift these 2.5 pound dumbbells or these 5 pound dumbbells for 1,000,000 reps until my brain goes numb. And so the gyms actually shifted towards that model, and it worked really well. But unfortunately, even 20 or 30 years later, we still run into this term from time to time of people believing that that's the best way to make progress, and that's how you tone or sculpt.
Yeah, and you're right about, I think what it comes from is a fear. And I will say in my career, I've been doing this, 15, 20 years. In my career, I've seen this fear of getting bulky. I've seen it decrease, but it's still there. We still have women say, now look, I want to get stronger, but I don't want to get bulky, and I think what they envision is they envision that kind of nasty looking like woman that's maybe actually done some steroids and is on a bodybuilding stage in her bikini and she's all tanned up. And these women are thinking that if I come to Creed and lift weights, that's what I'm going to look like. And it just couldn't be further from the truth.
No, and to even add to that point is the people who are, or the women who are in those competitions, they're actually putting male hormones into their body. And on top of that, they have been working out and lifting weights 6 or 7 days a week. They're in the gym. How long do you think some of those bodybuilders are in the gym?
Long time. I mean, 2 a days. They're eating 5,000 calories a day. They're trying very hard.
It takes 5 or 6 years. That's the other thing that blows my mind is a lot of women are like, after 2 or 3 weeks of doing maybe a 45-minute workout, that all of a sudden they're gonna look in the mirror and look like the She-Hulk. Listen, I wish it was that easy.
Right.
If it was that easy, like we would all be walking around looking like Arnold. Like, right. So I don't also know where that notion came from that like if you just like do a few sets of squats or heavy deadlifts, that all of a sudden you're just gonna like pack on all this muscle. We know that building muscle is hard. It's not impossible, but that takes a lot of process and time as well as we're kind of going through.
And I think to dig down a little on, now I'm not a woman, so I can't speak for our women watching this right now, but I think what most women want, just having done this for so long and having lots of conversations with women, is they don't want to just lose weight, right? They want to, because if you just lose weight, then you're kind of still a little saggy. So what they're saying is they want to lose some body fat, but they also want to kind of tighten things up. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I think there's a term, the cardio bunnies. So if you go in your regular Globo gym, you see the treadmills and the ellipticals full of people just kind of doing their 20 or 30 minutes. And we know that cardio and zone 2 training, all of that is really important. So I'm not poo-pooing on any of that training. But if that's all you do, Clint is exactly right. If all you're doing is losing fat and dropping the body weight, but you're not adding any muscle, then that turns into a little bit more of not the tight kind of, when people are referring to the toned and sculpt look, that's not really what they're envisioning. And so the complement of that is, in addition to the cardio, and working on more of the endurance is you have to complement that with lifting weights and doing something called progressive overload, which I'll get into in a minute. But I completely agree with that of kind of having the fear of both sides of, number one, not wanting to get too bulky, so not going one end of the spectrum where all they're doing is lifting heavy weights, but then also not wanting to have more of the kind of flabby look as they're going through.
Right. So just to reiterate, ladies, if your goal, this coming new year is you want to sculpt, you want to tone, if that's what you want, if that's what you're going for, what we're telling you is you have to gain muscle. You're not going to look like a roided out bodybuilder, okay? Just trust us on that. We've been doing this long enough to know that that's not going to happen. So that's what you need to do. That's what you want to do, all right? So maybe talk for a minute or two about how exactly we help our members gain muscle at Creed.
100%. And even before I get into that, this may ruffle some feathers, but if you go to a gym or hear a trainer tell you, I'm gonna lengthen your muscles, or we're gonna do this special program that's gonna tone or sculpt, run away from that. Do not go towards that.
And let me look. I think this is a good moment to be honest and truthful here. Genetics are a real thing. Okay, I've had many a woman say to me over the years that she wants to get rid of her cankles. Many a woman say that. Okay, ladies, some of that stuff is genetic. We can't fix all your problems and turn you into a Victoria's Secret model. And that's not what we want to do. We want to help you become the best version of you, right? So there are some genetic things that they're just there,
And people carry their weight in different areas of their body, and then also when they're losing the fat, when you do start to drop that body fat percentage, people lose the weight in different areas of their body. There's another thing, we'll get into this later, it's called spot reduction, where someone wants to lose weight in their ankles to get rid of their cankles. I wish it was as easy as me doing calf raises, and if I do targeted calf raises, then that targets that specific fat in that area. That's a conversation for another time. But to kind of get back into the building muscle, back to your original question, something that we believe here at Creed, and there are not a lot of principles out there. There's a lot of philosophies in terms of coaching and how to do programming. But as far as actual tried and true scientific principles, one of the main and only ones out there is progressive overload. So when we're looking at strength training, rather than just doing, if I were to go and pick up that 5-pound dumbbell over there, and for the next year, all I did was 4 sets of 10 curls with the 5-pound dumbbell. Very quickly, I would get to a level where that felt like nothing to me and I wasn't actually making progress. So progressive overload refers to changing some type of the intensity. Now there's multiple different forms of changing that. A lot of times the only thing people think about is how much weight is either on the dumbbell or on the bar. There's a bunch of other variables you can change, whether it's the amount of sets and reps you're doing, the amount of rest time you're doing in between, the weight on the bar. You can also progressively overload by going through more range of motion. You can also do things with speed of the bar. There's a ton of different factors you can play with. But over the long course of time, you do want to be changing some of those intensities. And typically the ones that we see are the most common are adding more weight to the bar and doing either more sets and reps, which we call volume. So if you are not incorporating those two things when you're lifting weights, then you are not working through progressive overload. And at Creed, that's a lot of what we do in our strength cycles is we start with, hey, this is what you did. You squatted 100 pounds for 6 reps. And then 8 to 10 weeks later in our strength cycle, we retest that to see if you're making progress and adding more weight onto the bar, or you're using kettlebells or dumbbells or whatever it is. So that's progressive overload, and that's the most basic principle in terms of building muscle and how to get there.
So we could talk about this for another hour, and we'll do a few more videos talking about all this stuff, but just to kind of wrap it up, I could do my own taxes. I could, I could, download the little Quicken or whatever it is and try to do it myself.
Or go to Dr. Google and say,
Or
how
go
do
to
I do
Google
my
how
taxes?
I do my taxes, and I could spend tons of time trying to figure all that out. Or I could hire an accountant to help me do it the right way. It's the same exact analogy with Creed. You can go join the Globo Gym and try to do this stuff yourself. All the stuff he just talked about, the constantly varied, the progressive overload, switching things up. You could do all that yourself. You could download some program online and get something. Or you could have a coach, a hands-on coach who's watching you, keeping you safe, helping you progress towards the goals, towards the toning goals that you have, right?
There you
That's what we do here at Creed. So, hey, if you're looking for a big change this coming new year and you need a little help doing it, we're here to help.
Love it.
Let's go. Let's talk to y'all soon.